All right. Looks like we got our regular list of big hitters on the line. Welcome everyone to another Friday Community Sync and Demo. The agenda today I think is relatively light given that we've had so much content over the last couple weeks. But there's still some good stuff, right? That's not, well,
It's fine.
there's only one person really, so.
Andy's gonna do it. Andy's got it, yeah.
Okay, well.
Is he on the call? Andy, you on there?
Andy, are you on the call? No. Okay, so we'll get started. Stephen has a couple of PRs to demo, and then we've got Jordan following that.
Okay. Today, I'm going to show off a few things. First, we got these awesome goose stickers. I gave them out to everybody. I don't know if you can see them on my laptop. I just wanted to show everybody on the call.
I don't think you can see it. But
nobody cares,
good.
But that's cool.
They're good.
They came out really well. So the first thing I'm going to demo is some breadcrumbs. Scott helped me work on the design for this. There's two breadcrumbs that we are displaying now. There's category page breadcrumbs and product page breadcrumbs, and they were done separately. Both of these both of these features have been merged into develop. So if you're working off the develop branch, you'll see them. I'll just show you how they look. Ignore the error. I don't actually know what that's from. Looks like workbox.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's Ravon's problem.
Oh shit.
So the first is the category page breadcrumbs. They're just straightforward breadcrumbs. We have the home link and the current page, non-clickable. You can go to an intermediate category, and it'll show the links between. So you'll have shop the look and the home button. One thing I wanted to call out was that there is currently a gap in the GraphQL coverage for the breadcrumb information. So while we can make a request to let me just show you the code real quick inside breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs query, you basically say give for a category, give me the breadcrumb information for this category. So normally that data would come back with a path, and then we could use that to link in right here. This would just be a link, but that functionality hasn't been released. It will be released in 2.3.4, I believe. And so when that happens, we'll come back in and we can uncomment this. Or if you update your backend, your Magento instance to 2.3.4, you can make this change in your code yourself. And then those links will just start working because the code was written to just accept this URL path if present, and it would just work. So I'll just show you real quick the product breadcrumbs also display. We had a few iterations on design for the product breadcrumbs, and I think we just opted for a straightforward show one, because it's possible if you land on a product, it could have multiple paths, multiple categories for that product. So rather than display two sets of breadcrumbs or some version of that, like a dropdown, we just are going to select the topmost one, and hopefully at some point the API will return the canonical path to that, which seems to be, if I select the first one in that breadcrumb in the return, it's always that anyways, but maybe we can depend on the API in the future to actually give us that information, or we can come up with a UX that shows them both in different ways. So that is breadcrumbs. Next, I wanted to show the hot reloading changes, and I think this is a little bit more interactive. So if you've ever been working on a page that, honestly, I don't know if this is root components. Create account isn't a root component. It's kind of like a root component. It's a route. So this is the one way that I was able to reproduce this bug that Brendan Falkowski was having, and probably several other people were getting. I was able to repro on the create account page. So to do that, you would just be on that page, and let's say you made a change, like you wanted to add a button. Hope this works. So I'm about to add a button to that create account page, and you can see it's rebuilding, and then there's two things that actually happened. First, the hot module replacement plugin tells us that it got an error, and it said it can't accept the change, and so it just does a full reload. So it actually does that full reload of the page, and that's what we're getting here. And then there's no other errors, but obviously the page is broken. This is a link, and it's like, for some reason, it doesn't show anything else. It's just the shell of the button. So it was really weird. It didn't even show the child, the click me text, and it didn't show anything after it. And I'm not even sure the container. Now the container, I think, is on there. So that fix, just check out this. Doing it live. Doing it live. So two things that I fixed. So I'm gonna restart my watcher now. Okay. So I checked out my fix. I'm gonna restart the watcher real quick. And the things I wanted to call out were that that error that we saw with the hot module replacement, it will not force a hot reload. It'll just, or sorry, a full reload. It will do a hot reload. So just the chunk that was replaced will get changed. And it shouldn't look like this, obviously. So let me refresh, and I'll clear my storage. We'll refresh. Okay, so now I'm going to add this button back. Come back over here. See the button appears. Click me, and you can see the hot module replacement. It says updated modules, and it went through and it was able to update the create account page without actually doing a full reload. And you can see that also in, if I went to use create account right here. Actually, I'm not going to do it right now. But there's other ways that you can demo it by like telling it. I can't remember exactly. I should have practiced it. But you can tell it to toggle stuff. You can do changes in hooks, and it will swap out those cleanly without doing full refreshes anymore. So it's a much better experience if you're in the middle of working on like the checkout form, and this is something that we worked on recently. But if you're deep in the checkout form and you're making some changes to something, every time you made a change, it would do a full refresh of the page. This would get closed. You'd have to open the form back up, go through all the steps just to get back to where you were in development, just to like get to the step that you were on. Now it should change out just the component that was modified and keep your place.
Did you have to change something in that back?
Yes, so I can show you what I did. So there's two things. So this line here, we added React Hot Loader Babel plugin. That fixes the issue that was forcing us to restart the watcher. So that's where the page looked broken, and you actually had to just restart the watcher for it to render properly. That's what the hot loader does. The next thing was adding this 3 lines of code to actually accept changes to that dependency tree or anything within the source index file. So if anything changes, this now allows it to do that hot reload rather than that error that shows up and says, please reload. So actually a really small change set, only 30 lines, 30 additions, but I think it makes the developer experience a lot better. Hopefully, if anybody's been running into this stuff on their in development, it no longer happens. So, all right.
Any questions for Stephen? Any thoughts for Stephen? Gotta bring it back.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Questions, but it's awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Andy, you are now on the line. Did you have a demo for today?
I can show the category page lazy loading the filters if you want. It's pretty quick.
Sure.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, cool. So I'll just walk you through the PR. I took screenshots of all the interactive pieces, so we don't have to do a live demo. But basically, as part of our performance optimization milestone that we started on a couple months ago, this was one of we're mostly through that milestone, by the way. And so this is one of the last remaining issues. And so this is just the loading of the category page. So this is, if you can kind of see this. The category component is updating. And for the most part, this category page, you're just looking at an image gallery of the products that are in this category. But you'll see that most of the time here is spent loading the filter modal, which isn't actually visible when you first come into the page. You have to click that filters button to see it. So I'm basically just reading this PR to you, but instead of, so basically we're just lazy loading that in now. So using React Lazy and Suspense, the new flame chart looks like this. So the time to interactive on the category page itself is much quicker. And then after the fact, we load in the filter stuff. And this is based on the assumption, I guess, that the filters would not be shown right away. So we have that extra, second or whatever. In reality, it takes much less than that, but that extra second to load in the filters because users are not going to interact with them right away anyway. We originally had logic in Venia to, hey, don't even load the filters until the user hovers over this button or clicks the button or focuses the button for accessibility. We still support that use case and that functionality is still there, but the default in Venia is just to load it right away. So if you want to defer the loading in your project, it is a really simple one-line change, and there's a comment in the code that tells you how to do it. I don't know if that's the best place, by the way. If Calcubin's on the line, maybe we can write a doc or something like that. But yeah, feel free to comment on this PR. I don't know the most common use cases, so that would be good to know from the community. But this is the default in Venia. We can easily change it if you want, but just a quicker load on the category page and splits out that the filter modal into a separate chunk. That's it.
Yeah, and just to add on, Andy, we talked about this in the PR a little bit, but the reason why we ended up changing it so that it auto loads on in the chunk, but on the first load, is because we found that kind of a weird experience on slow devices or slow network connections, that if we waited till you clicked or hovered, then you end up in this weird intermediate state where like you get an overlay, but the thing's still fetching, and then after it fetches, it like pulls in the drawer. So that's another issue I think you open to fix later.
Yeah, good point. Thanks for bringing that up again.
Yeah, just like if because you mentioned if people wanted to add that back in, then that's a case that they're going to need to account for the slow devices.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Can we do this? Like, you don't load the component yet. Like in the component, like you can fetch the data, but then just return a div. So the component is not loaded yet, but the data is available when you need it. So when you, whenever you click on the filter model,
you're talking about like a skeleton.
Sorry?
You're talking about like loading or rendering a skeleton.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the ticket that was broken off. Was two.
But this one, it actually fetches the data when the component is ready, not before the component is ready. Right?
Yeah. I'm misunderstanding.
So
it waits. Yeah. It waits until the first render and then fetches the component.
Yeah. So you can. My point is, problem here is the rendering of the data is taking a lot longer. That's the reason why you see in the flame chart that it's actually like bigger, right? Like, even if you don't click on the filter model, right?
I think it's actually the data fetch that takes a long time.
Oh, the data fetch.
Well, yeah.
The model there actually is, that's for React, not network.
Yeah, this is James.
Right.
Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you, James.
Yeah, you can fetch the data.
Cool, yeah.
Render the component.
Just to add on to what Revan said, since this is a dynamic import that's governed by Webpack's detection of dynamic imports, it would be something that potentially could be changed at build time by adjusting the optimization parameters in the Webpack build. So if we want to provide people the opportunity to do this, or a choice to do it based on their UX needs versus their bandwidth needs, then potentially it will be something that we could spike later to be just adjusted at build time. So you could say, reuse existing chunks if they match this and this and that. We could make a nice API on top of it so that it requires less intimate Webpack knowledge. But because of that availability at the build phase to do this, I think it will be reasonable for us to write the code that allows it to be split dynamically, since it's a lot easier to make that fast with reusing a chunk so that it's preloaded than it is to make a static import suddenly load dynamically. So I approve of this this change. I think it's more flexible for future use cases.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Good point.
James with the knowledge bombs.
Yeah, this PR is still open, by the way, so this hasn't been merged yet. If y'all have opinions or whatever, feel free to post them.
Or thoughts. All right, great. Any other questions for Andy?
Well, I guess maybe I should summarize what I said by saying thank you. This is great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay. So before I turn things over to Jordan here, I would just say that even from, I think, the couple of demos that you have seen today, and probably if you've been paying attention to our board, what you starting to notice likely is that the kind of focus for the team is transitioning here. Over the last few months, we've kind of been focused on really foundational, moving forward with Peregrine and shoring up the kind of Peregrine framework, right? Doing performance optimizations. And now we're getting back around to looking at Venya feature work, and based on what we're hearing from you, the developer community, and our partners out there that are actually implementing PWAs and looking at Venya and asking, hey, what about my account? What about full checkout and the cart experience and this piece of the cart experience, right? So we've had those in our backlog, and now they're starting to come up in priority, and we're starting to work on those things. So if you have particular interest in what we're doing there, stay tuned on these upcoming demos. We'll have UX coming in talking about the designs. You'll start to see more PRs that are focused on Venya feature work. And if you're interested in contributing there or helping out or what we're doing, please feel free to reach out, let us know, comment on the PRs, look through our backlog, right? But obviously that's kind of a shift that's now happening now. We're kind of wrapped up with Peregrine, and we're wrapping up some of the performance optimization work. So great, yep, that's it for that. Jordan, you have a great demo for us about PWA Studio Stats.
Yeah, let me check if I can share my screen with you guys. This should be working?
Yes, we can see it, yep.
Yeah, awesome. So it has nothing to do with the actual code base, but I thought it would be great to have like a list of actual production live PWA Studio web shops. And as far as I know, these are the only 3 that are live right now. And it's basically just a collection of metrics and who made them and a link to the web shop. And I think this can be beneficial for both developers and merchants. The reason it's I'm not sure about developers, but for a merchant, it can be like, oh wait, all these metrics improved, so I was still doubting if I would go for PWA Studio, and this could be like this final push, and maybe for developers as well, actually, because a developer can reach out to, for example, GH or Experience and ask like, hey, how did you fix the filters, and we can help each other grow. So yeah, that's basically why I made this list.
Thanks. Should add a link to PWA Studio's repo or docs. And should we add Venya? Like our master. I mean, it's not a real storefront, but it's,
Yeah, I think there's definitely value. I think the question that we get consistently, most people know where PWA Studio is, where to find it by now, but the question we get consistently is, hey, what production storefronts are there that have been launched? And so I think this really helps answer that question, and I think we can discuss it, with Jordan, but I think this is a great resource for just answering that question, right?
Exactly.
So
nothing too fancy.
Yeah. So this is great. And thanks, Jordan, for putting this together for us. So obviously, I think there at the end, at the bottom of the page, you can see that if you have a project going on or you have a launch that's happened and you don't want to tell us about it, you can just reach out to Jordan. His email was there.
Yeah, that's going to be changed. No, I'm going to refactor that to that's a mistake because my mail server wasn't working, but I'm going to change it to a GitHub repo so you can just submit a PR and then I can make it without any work.
Yep, that's great. Any questions, any comments there? Jordan? All right. So that was it that we had on our side for demos. I'll take a pause here to open up for any questions to anyone that's on the line about anything that we're doing, anything that you're working on, or any just kind of general commentary. Awkward silence. And there we go. So we have a fire in the building. So there we go.
We're so hot.
Oh,
Thanks, everyone. See you guys. Bye.
honk and subscribe.
Onward and outdoors.
What the?
That's awesome. All right, see you guys.
Later.